Your birth chart is not just about a horoscope. It's your soul's blueprint. Billionaires use it and empires relied on it. Our abuelas only trusted Huarte Mercado. But today, we're diving deeper. We're gonna break it all down. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Life Vetted. Thank you for being here and thank you for tuning in. Do you ever wonder why you are the way that you are? I know I did, for sure, for a really long time. It wasn't until I got a full report on my entire birth chart, detail by detail, that I was able to put the pieces together and truly understand why I was prone to certain attitudes or prone to making certain decisions. Your birth chart can uncover a lot of those things. And I've said this before, I encourage everyone to get their birth chart report or their birth chart read by a professional. I thought it would be a lot of fun if on today's episode we went over in detail what your birth chart means, how to get your birth chart, what each of the signs and the planets and the houses all mean. I love this conversation. I can talk about this for hours. So I figured, why not make an episode where we dive into that stuff. So here we are. Now we're going to go over just the starting of your birth chart. So just kind of on the things on top. I am by no means a professional birth chart reader, but I know enough to kind of help you have an idea of where some of the things are in your birth chart, what they mean, and how they correlate to you and your personality. I remember, and I think I shared this story before, I remember like my first year of college at Miami-Dade, and I had an English professor that made us write down on a piece of paper our name, our major, and our date of birth. I didn't know why he was making us write down our date of birth. I just figured, I don't know, maybe he wants to know how old we are. I wasn't sure. One of the guys sitting next to me made like a joke. I didn't think he even thought that that's the reason why he was making us write down our date of birth, but he made a joke like, oh, you're making us write down our date of birth because you want to know our zodiac signs or something. And the professor replied, and he said, yes, that's exactly why I'm writing it down. That's exactly why I want you to write it down. And I was just like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like up until that point, I just knew that I was born, in September and that I was a Libra, and that's pretty much it. But I did like find it fun and I did believe in it to a certain extent. So I was like, oh, that's so cool that, an older English professor is like into that stuff. And the guy sitting next to me started laughing, and all his like boys started laughing, and they're like, oh, he's like, you're going to tell me that you can tell me the personality of who I am just on the day that I was born. And then for the first time ever, I heard this kind of explanation. Now you hear a lot of people give that explanation, which is completely true. But back in that day, like, what was it? 2005? 2006, you never heard somebody say this like out loud. And when he said it, I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. The professor said, well, what's the first thing they put in your IV when you get to an emergency room or to a hospital? And the guy replied, saline, right? Saline water. And then the professor said, what controls the tides and the waves and the water on Earth? And everyone was like, oh, the moon. And the professor even went further to say, like, what controls, like, if some animals mate, or if some coral reefs come out, or, you know, certain species on this planet won't even come out or do things unless there's like a full moon or things like that. And so everyone's like, yeah, yeah. And then he's like, well, the moon, that is the nearest little rock or whatever that's closest to our planet, has so much effect on this planet, and it's just right there. So if the moon controls some of the animals, some of the species, the salt water, and you are made up of whatever, 70% salt water or water in your body, you're going to tell me that the positioning of the moon might not have a small effect on you and how you act and maybe your mood. So imagine if the moon has that effect on planet Earth, and we have all these different planets in our solar system. You're going to tell me that their magnetic pull or their distance from Earth and their positioning from Earth is not going to have any effect at all whatsoever on us humans that are literally made out of everything that's made in the universe. Everything that the universe is, we are made from that. And then, of course, my mind was blown, but everyone else was like, oh yeah, oh my God, you know, and the guy obviously shut up and he had nothing else to say. So from that moment, I was pretty interested, needless to say, in all this stuff. I didn't really deep dive into it until a few years ago, where I was trying to find answers, right? I couldn't figure out certain things and why certain things were happening. And like I mentioned before, talk therapy only does so much. You can only do certain things with talk therapy. And although that helped me a lot, after talk therapy, there has to be something greater. There has to be something bigger that you believe in, or something that just is bigger than what you're doing in those sessions. So it is my personal opinion that when you mix astrology, as in knowing your birth chart, psychology, and spirituality, you can really, really have the tools that will help you through any situation. Your life will be easier if you know these little, I call them cheat sheets of life. Okay, astrology, psychology, and spirituality. Psychology gives you the tools to process, to heal, to transform. It gives you the tools to understand what it is you can do with certain situations, or at a certain point. You get the tools to know how to better react, or how to comfort or self-soothe yourself in certain situations. Astrology helps you understand your natural tendencies, why you will react in a certain way in a certain situation, what you are naturally gonna do, or what you are naturally going to think or feel. And spirituality helps you to view all of these things as part of your spiritual evolution, as part of your purpose. So it's not so much about the behavior, but the purpose. And once you combine the knowledge of all these things together, dude, you literally become like a superhero. Okay, you are like, you have like superhero power once you combine all these things together. So for example, An abandonment wound in your childhood will show up on your birth chart, right? You can see that. So for example, if you look up your child's birth chart, you can learn a lot about your child without even thinking, like it's a blueprint. So an abandonment wound will show up on your birth chart. Going to therapy will help you reparent yourself and help you overcome that pain, because it'll give you tools on how to do that. And then spirituality tells you it's okay that these things are happening to you. This is part of your journey. This is part of your soul's purpose. Now, the reason why I feel like all three of them are important is because pain is pain. And even though you might be the type of person that's like, oh yeah, I know. Yeah, things just happen. It is what it is. It's that pain gets stored in your body. And if you don't learn how to disperse it, release it, forgive it, it can come up later on in your life as different kinds of things. And so when you combine these three cheat sheets, these three different knowledges, it really gives you an upper hand to your day-to-day. It really gives you an upper hand to the way you view your entire life. It's insane. I know that for sure that's what happened to me. I'll give you one last example before we dive in. For example, in a birth chart, you can see when there's going to be a big change, or when there's going to be a big lesson that's going to come, or a big shift is more likely to happen during a certain amount of time. So you could see that on a birth chart. Psychology and therapy will help you deal with the emotional impact of these things. It'll help you navigate those things. And spirituality gives you meaning and reminds you that this is a rite of passage, if you will, that these shifts are a rite of passage, and it allows you to let go of control and really step into flow and purpose. So you see how these three different things are super, super important. And I know that in all my episodes, I've talked a lot about spirituality. I've talked a lot about getting closer to source. And I've also talked about therapy. I've been in therapy myself. And so today I think it's going to be fun to get into the astrology part of it and hopefully help you guys form a little bit of curiosity and not judgment. All right, so astrology 101. Let's start with the basics. What is a birth chart? Well, let me explain. A birth chart is a map, or blueprint as I've been calling it. It is a map of the stars in accordance to the location and the time and the date that you were born. So in order to get a complete birth chart, you do have to know the exact time that you were born. Unfortunately, some people don't have that information, and without it, there's not a lot of details that you can get with the birth chart. You have to have the exact time. I was lucky enough, I have a picture that they take of you when you're born, and my mom saved, the date and time and all of that. So I was able to look that up. Once you look that up, you can go onto different apps. There's Time Passages, there's an app called CoStar, there's an app called Astra. They can calculate all that information and then give you your birth chart. when you see your birth chart, it looks a little crazy, okay? It kind of looks like this here. And so you're gonna see a lot of lines and a lot of points. These are the constellations in the skies, exactly where they were in accordance, like I said, to where you were on Earth. And so it creates like a map of everything. So once you figured that out, I'm sure most of you know what your sun sign is. Your sun sign is on the day that you were born. So whether you were born April 12th or December 23rd, etc., that changes your sun sign. But you will find out in this video that you are not just your sun sign. There's the sun and the moon and Jupiter and Venus and Mars, and all the planets that are in our solar system have a purpose and have a different positioning in your chart. And depending on where they are positioned, it will tell you a lot about that area of your life. Let's break down the big three. So your big three are your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign. Again, you have to calculate these with your time of birth. So the sun sign is basically like your identity, who you see yourself as primarily. Your moon sign is your internal world, your emotional world, how you process feelings. Your rising sign is how other people view you. Your rising sign is also your chart ruler. So I would probably say that your rising sign is more important than your sun sign. Your rising sign is your chart ruler, and the planet that belongs to that rising sign is the one who governs your whole birth chart. So I think that that sign is probably even more important than your sun sign. And another little side note, when you're reading your horoscope, for people that like to read their horoscope, I would suggest that you not just read your sun sign, because sometimes you're not even going to be able to relate to that. You have to read your rising sign. If you're reading a horoscope, read your rising sign. That one's the most important. A lot of the times I remember I would be like, oh, I'm a Libra. I don't relate to those characteristics. So Libra's characteristics, if you look them up, it's, they're indecisive, they're kind of flaky, like wishy-washy. And I'm like, dude, that's not me at all. Like, I don't relate to that at all. I do relate to like wanting peace and not always like wanting to have confrontation and things like that. I could relate to that, and kind of being positive, I relate to that too. But the whole like indecisive and being flaky and not picking sides when something's about to go down, like I didn't relate to that at all. It wasn't until I found out and I got my birth chart was that I could see why I didn't relate to the Libra characteristics. It's because I have a lot of fire signs and earth in my chart. My chart is pretty balanced, okay? We're gonna go through everything, and my chart is pretty balanced. I have a little bit of water, I have a little bit of air, I have a little bit of earth, so it's pretty balanced, and I have a little bit of fire. So I understood why usually those characteristics like never really resonated with me. So we'll get into that further. All right, so let's start by going through all of the zodiac signs and their element. Every zodiac sign has a different element. There's water, fire, earth, and air. So we're gonna start up at the top with Aries. Aries is represented in the zodiac with the ram, and it is a fire sign. And just like their element, Aries is fiery. They are, like the god of war, literally. They don't run away from confrontation. They are think now, do now, think later kind of people. And they're go-getters. They are action. That is how I see Aries, okay? And that is the first zodiac sign, actually. Not a lot of people know that, but the first zodiac sign of all the signs is Aries. We start with Aries. Then we move on to Taurus. Taurus is represented by the bull, and it is an earth placement. Tauruses are lovers of luxury, okay? They love good food, good clothes, good life. Tauruses are just luxury at its best. Now, they are pretty hard-headed and they can be a little lazy sometimes, but overall, that is kind of the description of Taurus. The third zodiac sign, we have Gemini. Gemini is represented by the twins, okay? And Gemini is an air sign. A lot of people like to say that Geminis are two-faced. I think of it more as Geminis have a good side and they have a bad side. It is like kind of Jekyll and Hyde a little bit. They can be really good, but they can also be really, really bad. And Gemini is a sign of partnership and it's a sign of communication. Geminis like to be mentally stimulated. They can't be around boring conversations. That's why some of them are sometimes prone to gossiping or being involved in gossip in some way, because they like to chit chat, they like to talk. And so that is what I think of when I think of Gemini. The fourth zodiac sign is Cancer. Cancer is represented by the crab, and it is a water sign. Cancer is a very emotional sign. It is looked at as the mother of the zodiac. They're very nurturing, they can be. They are emotional and sensitive on upside, and some of the downsides could be, if they're not developed, they can be very manipulative, and a Cancer will hold a grudge for 100 years, okay? They will hold a grudge for 100 years. So there's that. After Cancer, we have Leo. Leo is represented by the lion, and it is a fire sign. Leos are, thought to be very courageous and very center of attention, kind of like a lion. If you think of a lion, they are bold and they like to be the center of attention, and they like to have their manes stroked, if you will. They like to be complimented. They like to have people tell them how beautiful they are. And so, a little ego driven. They can be a little ego driven. And so that can give you a few little insights into Leo. Their ego can get a little big sometimes, but they have a huge heart and they're very kind. After Leo, we have Virgo. Virgo is represented by the Virgin. So it's a woman. It's if you look it up, it's just like a woman. She's supposed to represent the Virgin in the zodiac. Virgos are a earth sign, and they can be very analytical, very into details. There are Virgos that are very practical. a lot of the times when there is a Virgo who's underdeveloped, that analytical, practical side can turn into criticism, very bad criticism. And instead of being detail oriented, which they usually are, they would be the opposite, like complete messes. So it's either one or the other with Virgos. And they're so self-critical. They're so critical that they're the worst with themselves. So if you have a Virgo who's criticizing you, they've probably have been saying even worse things to themselves. Trust. After Virgo comes Libra. Libra is the only sign in the zodiac that isn't represented by an animal or a human. It's represented by an object, which is the scales. Libra is an air sign, and some of those characteristics are being balanced, being about fairness and justice and harmony. Now, when you have a Libra that's not developed, I mean, those things can just flip on their heads. They can just be completely unbalanced. They could be completely indecisive, super indecisive, and they can probably be the ones that start the chaos. Okay, so there's an upside and a downside to all the signs, and it just depends on how developed each person is. After Libra, we have Scorpio. Scorpio is represented by a scorpion, and it is a water sign. Scorpios are very mysterious. They are people who, when they care a whole lot. And because they care so deeply and so much, they protect themselves, and they're kind of mysterious, and they don't tell things about themselves a lot. They want to know everything about you, but they won't let out a lot about themselves. And this can turn into not trusting people, thinking that everyone's out to get them or doing something terrible to them. So that happens a lot with Scorpios. Sagittarius is the archer. Represented by the archer, you might have seen it, half man, half horse, also with, a bow and arrow. And Sagittarius is a fire sign. Sagittarius symbolizes adventure, optimism, forward thinking. Sagittarius's love freedom, and so that can be translated into like fear of commitment. They don't want to be held down, or they are very matter of fact about the things that they believe in. Once they believe in something, they're pretty hard-headed about those things. And so Sagittarius is probably the most optimistic zodiac sign of all the zodiac signs. So that could also lead to like toxic optimism, where they're almost a little delusional. After Sagittarius, we have Capricorn. Capricorn is represented by the goat, and it is a earth sign. Capricorn is all about discipline, ambition. They're goal setters, they're goal getters. They are about that money. If you have Capricorn placements, you are about that money, sometimes to a complete fault. That can also be a downside. But a Capricorn, they are about that bag, and don't let them tell you that they're not. They are. After Capricorn, we have Aquarius. Aquarius is represented by the water bearer. So you'll see in some of the pictures, it's like a woman with a vase, and there's like water pouring out of it. Surprisingly, Aquarius is not a water sign. It is an air sign. And Aquarius symbolizes, trendsetters, humanitarians. They care about the greater good. They're innovative. They're a little bit against the grain. They are known as the rebels of the zodiac. If everyone's doing one thing, they're gonna do something else. And sometimes it's not even because they want to do something else. It's just to prove a point that they aren't like everyone else. So that can get a little tricky when it comes to their personalities and how they are and interact with other people. But above everything else, Aquariuses care about the greater good. What's good for everyone, not just me. And the last sign of the zodiac is Pisces. Pisces is represented by two fish, and the fish are going in opposite directions. Pisces is a water sign, and Pisces, they say that Pisces is like an accumulation of all the signs. That's what they say. But Pisces are usually very dreamy. They live in their kind of bubble, in their dream world. They are compassionate to a fault. They have very intuitive psychic abilities if they tap into that. And they are very empathetic people. Downside could be, you know, too dreamy, too delusional. Sometimes a Pisces will tell themselves a story, and the story is the most craziest thing in the world that could even maybe cause them harm, but they believe it. And if they believe it, there's no way of getting them out of that bubble. It is what it is. So going back to what we were talking about, your sun, your moon, and your rising, you can literally have 3 different signs in each one of those positions. So for example, like I said, I don't identify with my sign, okay? And the reason why is because although I am a Libra sun, I am a Leo moon, and I am a Sagittarius rising, okay? Sagittarius and Leos are pretty decisive people. They are pretty in your face. They probably are not going to sugarcoat things like a Libra would, for example. So if I had all of those signs in Libra, then I probably would have identified way more with those Libra characteristics. But because I have a rising in Sagittarius and a Leo moon, I'm pretty loud. I'm sure you guys know this. I am pretty in your face. And because I have that Sagittarius rising, which is how the world views me, how I am outwardly, I'm pretty in your face, and I don't need to lie to you or sugarcoat anything. If I like you, you know I like you, and if I don't like you, you know that too. So that made so much more sense when I got my birth chart, and I was like, oh, that's why I say shit and then I want to put my foot in my mouth because I can't believe I fucking said it. Like, now it all makes sense. All right. Let's get into the planets and what all of them means. We have the sun. The sun represents your identity, your core self. The sun rules the zodiac sign Leo. So for example, if you are a Leo or if you are another fire sign, the sun is happy in that. Then we have the moon. The moon governs your emotions, your intuition, your inner world, what happens on the inside and how you process that. The moon rules Cancer. So having your moon sign, let's say in Cancer, it is comfortable there because the moon rules Cancer. So having a moon in Cancer can say that you process your emotions very well, that you know what you're feeling and how to say that out loud. Let's say that you have your moon sign in Aries, for example, which is a fire sign. The moon is not comfortable in Aries because Aries is the god of war. So what it can say is that if you have your moon sign in Aries, it could say that you handle emotions by confrontation. You explode. You might be easier to snap at someone. etc. After the moon, we have Mercury. Mercury is the sign of communication, and Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. Mercury is about intellect, it's about the mind, it's about communication. So for example, if you had your Mercury sign in either Gemini or Virgo, it can say that you are a good communicator, that you know how to express yourself well because it feels at home in Gemini and Virgo. Let's say you had your Mercury in a different sign that wasn't ruled by Mercury. It could maybe say that you have a harder time expressing yourself, or the way you express yourself might be blunt or vague, depending on the sign that you have there. After Mercury, we have Venus. Venus governs love, pleasure, beauty. Venus is ruled by Taurus and Libra, which makes a lot of sense. Taurus loves the good things. Taurus loves the pleasure and love and beauty. Same thing with Libra. Libra is considered, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Libra, okay? Libra is considered the most beautiful sign in the zodiac. So if you have a placement in Libra, that just makes that part of your personality more beautiful, more attractive. For example, if you have Libra and Venus, and if you have Taurus and Venus, it's comfortable there. That planet is comfortable in those signs because it rules them. So you might be like the quintessential romantic partner, or hopeless romantic, or very tender, or very expressive with your love if you have it in one of those signs. After Venus, we have Mars. Mars is the planet of action, energy, drive. Mars is ruled by Aries. And Aries, like I said, it is, what are we doing? Action. Let's do this. There are some signs that Mars is more comfortable in. Like for example, Scorpio. Mars is more comfortable in Scorpio than Pisces, for example, because Scorpio is another one of those signs that they take action. They are not go with the flow kind of people. For example, like Pisces. Pisces is more go with the flow, whatever happens may happen. Kind of like Sagittarius too. Sagittarius is a little like go with the flow, we'll see. So Mars doesn't like to be in those planets. Mars likes to be in Aries. It likes to be in even maybe Leo, Scorpio, Capricorn. It likes to be in signs that are action takers. After Mars, we have Jupiter. Jupiter is the sign of optimism. It is the sign of expansion. It is the sign of fortune. Jupiter is ruled by Sagittarius. Sagittarius is considered the luckiest sign of the zodiac. And I can confirm that because I have my rising in Sagittarius. I am ruled by Jupiter. Your rising sign is the ruler of your birth chart. And I can tell you that I am a freaking lucky person. Super, super lucky. Sagittarius is optimism. It is higher learning, all those things. And Jupiter is about expansion. So having your Jupiter in, let's say, Sagittarius or Pisces, it can be very, very lucky for you. Pisces, Jupiter was the ancient ruler of Pisces. So astrology has changed a little bit over the years and they have rearranged some of the things, but having Pisces in Jupiter can also be a very lucky aspect. After Jupiter, we have Saturn. Big Daddy Saturn, that's what we call it. Daddy Saturn. Saturn is about discipline. It's about responsibility. It's about structure. I don't know if you've heard the term your Saturn return. Every time you have a Saturn return, it is teaching you something. Saturn is your daddy, and Saturn rules Capricorn, which makes perfect sense. Capricorn is about discipline. It is about structure. It is about doing what you need to do, okay? Saturn will teach you a lot of your lessons that you need to learn, and it will teach you whether you want to or not. And if you ignore him, you will get the consequences. No bueno. Trust me. Uranus is next, and Uranus is about innovation, rebellion, change. Uranus rules Aquarius. Again, Aquarius, the rebel, they do things different, and Uranus is the planet that rules Aquarius. After Uranus, we have Neptune. Neptune represents dreams, intuitions, spiritual realm, the non-physical realm. That is what Neptune represents. And Neptune rules Pisces. So that's why I say that Pisces can be very delusional. If they don't understand their chart and they can't really reel in their dreaminess, a Pisces, it's two fishes, and one fish is going this way and the other fish is going this way. So half of the time they don't even know where they're going, what they're doing, what's happening. So hopefully they have some earth signs in their chart to balance that out. Last but not least, Pluto. Pluto is a generational planet. Because Pluto is the furthest planet from Earth, it moves a lot slower. So Pluto will change only 20 something years from sign to sign. Pluto rules Scorpio. Pluto represents transformation, death, power. So Pluto just changed, actually. We had Pluto in Capricorn for 20 something years, and it just changed to Aquarius, okay? So these planets, like us in the solar system, are constantly moving and moving and moving. So the planet, even though they have their ruler, that they rule certain zodiac signs, because they're in the sky and they're moving around all these constellations, they are moving from zodiac sign to zodiac sign. So depending where these planets fall, that could predict or give you an idea of what kind of energy is going on in the collective. We've gone over the zodiac signs. We have gone over the planets. And now we're gonna go over the houses. Now, when you see your birth chart, it is broken down into 12 different sections, like a piece of a pie. 12 different pies, okay? And each one of these pieces of pies has a theme that is associated with that house. So that is how you can know what part or what planet and what zodiac affects what part of your life, okay? Depending on the planet and depending on what zodiac sign is in that planet and where those two land on any one of these 12 pieces, that can give you an insight to your career, your family relationships, your love relationships, okay? And so depending on where it lands, we might have some more insight as to how you can be better in that section. Now, in this video, I am not gonna get into the trines and the squares and the sextiles. All that is just saying that those signs, those lines that you see in your zodiac birth chart, those affect one another. And so depending on where they land and how they connect to the other signs and planets. For example, does it make a triangle? Does it make a square? Does it make a sextile, which is kind of like a cross and a line through it? So depending on where they land, that can also give you a little more detail into how those areas affect one another. Okay, we are doing kindergarten birth chart reading, okay? I've gone over the personalities of the zodiacs. I've gone over the planets and what they mean. And now we're gonna go over the 12 houses. Okay, there are 12 houses, and each house is ruled by a zodiac sign. And each one of those zodiac signs is ruled by a planet, which we consider the house ruler. So let's start with house number 1. The house number 1 is ruled by Aries, which is ruled by Mars. So house number 1 has to do with yourself, your appearance, your presence in the world, your personality, your body, your interface with the world, if you will. First house is about the physical world. Then we move on to the second house. The second house is ruled by Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. Venus is the house ruler. The second house has to do with your values, your financial security, your assets, your material possessions, money, your attachment or relationship to money, your resources, and your essential needs. The third house is ruled by Gemini. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is the house ruler. The third house has to do with, you guessed it, communication, your behaviors, your habits, your thought patterns, your local perception, short distance travel. It could also have to do with your family perception. Then we have the fourth house. The fourth house, Cancer. Cancer is ruled by the moon, which is the fourth house ruler. The fourth house has to do with home, family, your private life, your ancestors, your relationship to a certain place, unforeseen factors that can influence your physical life, origin stories, your home, your foundation. The fifth house. Fifth house is ruled by Leo, which is ruled by the sun, and the fifth house ruler is the sun. The fifth house is about leisure, it's about creative projects, it's about pleasure, vision, expression, romance, the things that we do just for the sake of doing them. Fortune, children. The sixth house is ruled by Virgo, which Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So Mercury is the house ruler. The sixth house is about work routine, body maintenance, sickness, health routines, the work we do for money, the physical life maintenance, duty, obligations, and the unseen work that we do behind the scenes. The seventh house is ruled by Libra. Libra is ruled by Venus. And Venus is the house ruler of the seventh house. The seventh house is about relationships. It's about committed relationships. It's how you love and express love. It's about partnerships, marriages, projections, mirroring relationships. Seventh house is about love. The eighth house is ruled by Scorpio. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, but its ancient ruler is also Mars. So that is the house ruler for the eighth house. The eighth house is about sex. It is about the occult, the death, the naughty things that we don't say out loud. It's about money, inheritance, investments, shared and veiled resources. The 9th house is ruled by Sagittarius. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. So Jupiter is the house ruler for the 9th house. And the 9th house is about expanded perception. It is about philosophy. It is about the hypotheses of life, higher education, organized religion. It's about long distance travel. It's about the world view, if you will. 10th house. The 10th house is ruled by Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So Saturn is the ruler, house ruler of the 10th house. And the 10th house is about public image and ambition. It's about reputation. It's about the role in the world. It's about social status. It's about the work that you do for fulfillment. It is also a fame house, recognition, etc. The 11th house is ruled by Aquarius. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is the house ruler. The 11th house is about shared vision and expression. It's about friendships, organizations. It's about your community. It's about social activity, collective efforts. It's about social life and how you fit into that. And last but not least, the 12th house. The 12th house is ruled by Pisces, which is ruled by Neptune. So Neptune is the house ruler for the 12th house. The 12th house is about the unconscious collective, spiritual life maintenance, the surrender, the institutions, the ego death, the suffering, the renewal of your spirit, the self-transcendence. It has to do a lot with your spiritual self. So when you get your birth chart, you will have all these different planets and they will be in a bunch of different zodiac signs. Some people's birth charts predominantly have just water signs or predominantly only have earth signs. That can tell you a lot about a person's personality. It could tell you if they have a Venus in a certain part, in a certain zodiac, they can tell you how they love, how they want to be shown love. It's all these little cheat sheets that give you a deeper understanding of other people and a deeper understanding of yourself. I have pulled my daughter's birth chart, so there's a lot of things that I have gotten information on that I already know. So what does that do for me? That helps me to prepare for certain things. It helps me to pivot if I need to. It helps me be a better parent, to be honest. Your birth chart is not a concrete death sentence. Your birth chart is just a blueprint of your soul's mission in this life. And if you're smart, you're able to pick up these transits and these patterns in your birth chart to help you be a better person. For example, I'll give you an example of mine. My Venus, which is the love planet, is in Scorpio. Venus does not really like to be in Scorpio. Venus is about love and it's very airy. It's ruled by Libra, so it's very, chill. And Scorpio is not chill. Scorpios have zero chill. So when my Venus, which is my love planet, is in Scorpio, it makes me pretty intense when it comes to love. And that's very true. I used to say to myself, if I'm a Libra, why am I so crazy intense when I love someone or when I care about somebody? I had no idea. Now I know. It's because it's in Scorpio. Scorpio is not a superficial zodiac sign. So it being in Venus in my chart makes me zero superficial. I cannot have a conversation about what's your favorite color and where did you grow up. I can't have those kinds of conversations. This is why I don't date because I can't do the superficiality of love, if you will. When I love someone, I want to know your deepest, darkest secrets. I want to know why you're so fucked up. I want to know why your brain thinks the way that it does. I want to know the darkest parts of you and love you anyways, which can be a good thing, but also a bad thing because I am sometimes, most of the time, attracted to people that have a dark side, that have some sort of fucked up shit going on, right? And I think that I can make them better by loving them so deeply, and that's simply just not true. I have learned my lesson. So now that I know that, and I know that I'm usually attracted to a certain type or certain things, I can pivot from that. Now, I will tell you, I still can't have superficial relationships, not even with friends. Like, I can't have superficial relationships, whether they're platonic or romantic. I just can't do it. I don't want to know what your favorite color is, and I don't want to know, why you watch The Real Housewives. Like, I can't do that till this day. However, I know that I love very deeply and very intensely. So knowing that, I can avoid certain people that won't take me as serious, if that makes sense. Another little tidbit is your birth chart can show you your past lives and what your purpose in this life is. For example, we have the North Node and the South Node. When you get your birth chart, you will see that in your reading. Your North Node is your soul's purpose in this life. And your South Node, which are directly opposite of each other, are your past life tendencies. So for example, my North Node is in Aries, which directly opposite of Aries is Libra. And so Libra and Aries are polar opposites. Libras are more zen, Aries are more getting shit done. So my North Node in Aries and my South Node in Libra tells me that in my past life, I was a people pleaser, which Libras are known to be. We are go with the flow. We're people pleasers. We rather have peace in a group than war. We rather be in anguish as long as everyone else is okay. We're okay with that. As long as everyone's happy, we don't need to be happy. That is a characteristic of Libra. So me having Libra in my South Node tells me that that was my past patterns up until this life. My North Node is in Aries. Aries is about the one. Aries is about self. And so my soul's purpose in this life is to, one, love myself and know that I am enough, and know that I don't need to stay in rooms that I am not celebrated. Aries rather be alone than be with people that they don't like, and they will tell you that. Aries are go-getters. They are making shit happen, and that is my soul's purpose in this life. Yours might be different. So I highly recommend that you guys look that up, because it could tell you a lot, especially for people that are confused like I was. So now that I've given you the rundown on all the things, well, most of the things, I encourage you to go out there, get your birth chart. You can get it for 99 cents on Time Passages. I believe CoStar is free, so you can get those for free. You can also just look it up on Google, and you can look up each and every single planet. As long as you have your time and date and location of birth, you can get all that information. I encourage you guys to read all the sections. You will learn your patterns when you see those planets, and when you look at every single thing, you will look back into your life and you'll be like, oh shit, that's why I did that. Oh shit, that's why I acted like that. Oh shit, that's why I feel like this and that about this and that. Now, I'm just a messenger, okay? Don't kill the messenger. I promise you that if you skip the judgment and lean into the curiosity of it all and read your personal birth chart, you will find things that will blow your fucking mind. None of these things are coincidences. There aren't any coincidences. I encourage you guys to look those things up, come back to this video and comment your questions. If you guys have questions about what certain things mean, or what, you know, compatibility maybe you might have with your husband or your wife or whatever, even your kids, please come back to the video, type the question for me. I will get to it and I will let you know. I didn't want to go too deep into everything in this video because that shit will drive you guys crazy. There is so much stuff, but I am more than happy to look at your questions and answer them for you. I do know enough to be able to give my opinion on certain things, and I would love to see your comments and see some of your placements and some of your house placements too. That would be so much fun. So please, I encourage you to do that and come back and tell me all about it. The last thing I'm gonna say about astrology and your birth charts is that I found a lot of self-awareness through knowing my birth chart. Self-awareness in a lot of different areas of my life. I never in a million years thought that I was okay being in front of a camera and putting my business out there and being a person on the internet. And I understood through my birth chart that this is my destiny. I understood that those feelings that I had were just traumas that I was scared of being seen. When I read my birth chart, I knew that my purpose in this life is to be seen. My purpose in this life is not to play little. It is to take up space. I didn't know that, and I lived my whole life playing it small and trying to blend in and not stand out too much and not create too much ruckus. And it just gave me this whole different level of self-awareness that I am so grateful for. And I hope that it does the same for you. I might do a part 2 of this, get a little bit deeper into the trines and sextiles and compatibility with other people. There might be a part 2. We'll see how it goes. But either way, like I always say, the lessons will find you. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. This is Life Vetted, and today you've just been vetted by the stars.